As promised, he's one of the best directors there is on planet Earth today. His film Tenet, we had John David Washington on earlier this year. It stars John David Washington along with Robert Pattinson and Kenneth Branagh and more. And you can own Tenet now on 4K, Ultra HD, Blu-ray, and digital. Also in theaters, written and directed by Christopher Nolan here on The Rich Eisen Show. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am doing fine. I do not normally like to pick the brains of people who create such great films, but I wonder what goes on in your temples, sir. It is this film is remarkable, as is your filmography. How do you come up with the idea for Tenet, Christopher?
Gosh, I mean, I think anyone who's seen any of my other films won't be surprised to learn that I've always been interested in time in movies and how you can portray time and manipulate it in cinematic storytelling. But I think the seed of the idea for Tenet comes from an image I had very early on in my career of the idea of a bullet being sucked out of the wall and into the barrel of a gun. And I had it in my film Memento in sort of symbolic terms, but I'd always harbored a desire to construct a story on a movie where the characters would deal with the physical reality of that, the idea of time or some elements of the environment being reversed in time, some going forward, and mixing that together. And so Tenet is it's something I've been working on for a lot of years in terms of how to combine that with an entertaining spy thriller.
So again, for those who may not have yet seen it, and you should absolutely see it the first minute that you have an opportunity to do it, you create a world in which physical objects, as you pointed out, can actually go backwards in time, although creating stuff that is happening forward in real time, as well as human beings that become inverted, that also have all that. Did you have to take a particular time to actually explain this to people that you wanted to have in your movie, to actually walk them through what you mean by all this?
Well, listening to you explain it, I'm tempted to cut in and say, yeah, you just have to kind of see it, really.
Because did I botch it? Did I botch it, Christopher?
No, not at all.
Okay.
You did it very well, but it becomes a little overwhelming when it's verbal, and that's kind of the point. And that was a lot of the discussion with the people in the film, is you can talk it through, and you can analyze it and how this is going to work with the different timelines and people going forwards, people going backwards. But really, it's about the experience. It's about the camera seeing time for us, and the camera being able to show us time backwards, forwards, speed it up, slow down, or whatever, and getting to just enjoy that experience. For me, Tenet is first and foremost an action film, and the science fiction component gave me a reason to portray these action set pieces that we've all perhaps, seen in other movies, whether it's a car chase or a plane crash or so forth, to mount it on a large scale, but look at it in a different way, look at it through a different lens. And for me as an audience member, that's just what I'm always looking for, some kind of freshness to things. So I want to enjoy a large-scale action movie. I want to go on that thrill ride, but I want something new out of it. I want to look at it in a way that I haven't before, and that's what we've tried to do with Tenet.
Like two humans fighting each other, one who's living in real time moving forward and one who's already conducted the fight going backwards. I mean, that happened. How did you shoot that, Christopher Nolan? How does that get shot?
Well,
filmed?
It gets shot mostly in camera. We did a lot of discussion and planning at the beginning, thinking that we'd use visual effects, and then visual effects turned out not to be the solution. The solution was to cast an athletic performer, John David Washington, who's a former NFL player.
Yes.
Incredible physical talent, as well as a charismatic and a wonderful actor. And I threw him in with the stunt guys and the fight choreographer very early on. Said, okay, week one, day one of this film, you're going to be doing this fight forwards, backwards, every which way. A fight that, for reasons I won't go into, because I don't want to have any spoilers, but he had to learn this fight 4 different ways. And this guy turned up ready to play. He turned up on set day one and just dazzled the stunt team, dazzled everybody on set. It was really an amazing thing to watch. It was like Fred Astaire,
Yeah, that is one way to do it, because when I watched it, and again, I know I want to tiptoe through this because I don't want to spoil it too much, but when you say 4 different ways, you mean literally like, okay, you do it forwards, and now let's do it as if we're running it back, and it's you're not taking the same fight and then just somehow, some way running it back. You actually have the actors do it.
They're actually performing it both ways.
Unbelievable.
And the way we had to shoot it, and we learned a lot that first week. I decided to schedule it because it was one of the hardest things in the film.
Yes.
But I knew that if we could get our methodology figured out, we would then apply that to the car chase in the film. We would apply that to the plane crash. We would apply that to the great battle at the end. And so it was even more than that. It was they'd perform it one way, we'd film it a few times, and then we'd go, you know what, let's try it the other way. So on a dime, they would have to reverse all that chronology, enter into a completely different fight that goes from one end of the corridor to the other, figure that out. We give them a few rehearsals, and then we get in and film it again. And it's a real testament to the skill of the stunt team led by George Cottle and John David, and his commitment to making this work, that they were able to dazzle us all the time.
Christopher Nolan here on the Rich Eisen Show again. You can own Tenet now on 4K Ultra HD, Blu-ray, and digital, also available in theaters if things can work out for you to see it in a theater. You mentioned, again, science fiction and action like taking a 747 and driving it into a building. Did you really do that? That actually happened?
Yes, we did.
Christopher?
We really did it. I'd scripted this sequence for this plane crash, and we looked at doing it with miniatures and CG and set builds and everything. And when you added up all those numbers, it occurred to us that it might actually be cheaper to buy a real plane. Originally, we had our eye on like a 737, something like that.
Yes.
And we went out to the airplane graveyard, or where we could buy an old 737. And while we were looking at the 737s, I started looking across the field. You could see these MD-11s and 747s. And I sort of thought, and I said to the line producer, well, hang on a second, why can't we get one of those big ones? And let's if we're going to do it. I actually had the unique experience of impulse buying a 747 and then getting to crash it.
Okay. I have a few questions, if you don't mind me pulling on those strands here. I'll be honest with you. When I was watching this film, I didn't think while watching that scene that this was done for economic reasons, that it would be cheaper to do it the way you were doing it. That didn't. How does one impulse purchase a 747? Christopher,
well,
how does one do
you
that?
buy it from the salvage company, who then offers to buy it back from you,
okay,
the bits that you don't destroy. And the key thing is you sell the engines. You take the engines off first, because that's the expensive part that they reuse. So we took the engines off, built our own engines, much cheaper engines, obviously, fake engines, just a little electric motor to turn the fan blade. And that way, you're not doing any of the CG. You're also not building the interior set, which for an airplane is very expensive to build. And you're not building and shooting a miniature, which would be millions of dollars right there to do it well.
Huh.
So in a weird way, yeah, it was kind of a wash. But you can only do that if you've got a team of people working for you who can figure out how to do this. And so, interesting point. I'm sure you've seen The Dark Knight.
Of course.
There's a scene in The Dark Knight where an 18-wheeler truck flips over onto its back.
Yes.
So the guy driving that truck is a great stunt guy called Jim Wilkie. He's been around a long time. He's the same guy driving our 747 in Tenet. And so it's literally a thing of saying, Jim, can you drive a 747? Can you figure out how to do that? And you have a team like that, of people that you've worked with for years, you can do these things.
And here I thought Michael Caine was the most valuable member of your team, Christopher.
Well, there's in front of the camera and then there's behind the camera.
Understood.
There's a lot of people involved.
Yes, there's a lot of people. Christopher Nolan here on the Rich Eisen Show. That's the question I wanted to ask you, not to put you too much on the spot here, but growing up in London, if I had told you that you could make a movie where you could bash 747s into buildings and also car chases that exhilarate, or make several films with Michael Caine, which would you have chosen?
Bashing things up and blowing things up is a hell of a thrill.
Yes.
But the longer I do this job, the more, working with somebody like Michael, who, for a British kid growing up, absolute legend. And to have had the times that I've got to have with Sir Michael, I wouldn't trade those for anything.
I bet that it was just a delight to see him in Tenet. I'm like, okay, I'm expecting to see Michael Caine. When am I going to see him? And there he was. And he was just It was great. It really was just a delight to see him. I'm a big fan of his, and obviously he's been in so many of the Prestige and the Batman films, and Inception is just in a great film as well. I've got
He's actually in Dunkirk as well.
That's right.
Tiny little, there's a bit of his voice playing over the radio.
Oh, that's right.
Reprising his pilot from Battle of Britain from many years before.
Oh, my gosh.
I had to get him in there somewhere.
Yeah, of course. And Kenneth Branagh is in Dunkirk, and this film as well, in Tenet. Christopher Nolan here on the Rich Eisen Show. I would be remiss if I did not bring up The Dark Knight with you. There are so many fans of that film for which it is a remote drop. Doesn't matter where they find it. They have to watch it to the end, wherever they found it. How did you come across Heath Ledger for that role, Christopher? How did that come about?
Well, I'd met Heath a few times over the years, including actually when we were first casting Bruce Wayne. I met with him, and if he was interested in throwing his hat into that ring, and he wasn't at the time, but I had a really great meeting with him, and we'd sort of tried to find something over the years. And when I knew with the Joker, we were just looking for something utterly different. A great artist like Heath, that if he's up for the challenge, and he was absolutely up for the challenge, he was hungry to do something like that, and really let loose. They're going to do something different, and they're going to take some risks and really put something on screen. And it's one of the great privileges of my career that I got to work with such a great artist.
So I had Aaron Eckhart on the show just a couple of weeks ago, Christopher, and he told the story about how he was in the bed in the hospital room, and he placed himself as the actor there early on in the day and watched Heath go through his process, working out everything for the scene that he was going to do, and he didn't say a word, just watched Heath go through all of that. As a director, what do you do when you see somebody go through a process like that, Christopher?
You try and support it, and there's a moment in that scene, where we're covering the scene, a lot of different angles, and we're getting towards Heath's close-up. And the time was ticking, and we were really a little bit out of time. And I don't like to work long hours. I like to try and finish on time for the crew, because you're on a very long shoot.
Sure.
But Heath said to me, I'm in it. Can we keep going? And I said, yeah, absolutely. We nailed it. He nailed it. And everybody's jaw was dropping with the performance. And then on his way out, he very quietly, not in any flashy way, he went to every single member of the crew and just thanked them for working longer. Very quietly, didn't even want anyone to see that he was doing it. And that's the kind of guy he was.
Tom Schoen just published a book about, your work entitled The Nolan Variations, the Movies, Mysteries, and Marvels of Christopher Nolan. I have not read this tome yet, but will I learn in it why you are so fascinated with time, with the subconscious, with wormholes, with, again, what we just saw in Tenet? Does that delve into this?
I think you learn a fair amount about that. I think Tom, I cooperated with the book, obviously. Tom's somebody I've been running into over the years. He's a journalist and film critic, and he'd been bugging me to cooperate with the book for a long time. And I told him I felt like I hadn't done enough yet. And when it was after Dunkirk, he finally convinced me. And we spent a few years just chatting about things, and he's put it together into this, I think, it's a marvelous piece of writing that he's done. There's a lot of him in the book. There's an interesting sensibility to it. And I think for fans of the movies, he kept it about the movies and my interest in the stories I was telling more than anything. So, I think it's a good read. But, of course, I'm biased.
Sure. I wouldn't blame you for being biased. Before I let you go, what is your remote drop movie, Christopher? Wherever you're watching television and you see a film that is a favorite of yours, or you just don't mind binging it, even if it's not yours, obviously. Which one is it? Just a fan of film?
I hadn't heard the remote drop as a phrase. That's a fantastic one.
There you go.
I love it. And there are so many. I mean, I flick around, and if there's an old movie playing, I mean, God, anything by Kubrick, it's a remote drop. But some of the great comedies too, and I mean Talladega Nights. I'm never going to be able to switch that off.
Okay, now then, really,
what
the Ballad of Ricky Bobby is a Christopher Nolan mic drop movie? Is that what you're saying?
If you ain't first, you're last.
You're not wrong, Christopher. You're not wrong. I'm just that's fantastic. Does Will Ferrell know this? Did you just reveal that?
He does now.
He does now. Okay. Kubrick is that way for me too, though, by the way. Dr. Strangelove is one that does not get mentioned quite a bit. Which one, before I let you go, I honestly could bend your ear all day. Which Kubrick film is the most influential for you? Got
to be 2001. I mean, I love all of them, but 2001, I had the joy of working with the Kubrick estate a few years ago to what we called unrestore it. We had these old intermediate negatives that were made in the 90s of the original camera negative, 2001, and we got the lab to print them and make us a version on 70 millimeter with the original soundtrack, the original color time, exactly as Kubrick would have put it out at the time. And, myself and my director of photography, Hoyte van Hoyten, were working with Warner Brothers. And we took it to the Cannes Film Festival with Ron Sanders from Warner Brothers. And we showed it to an audience there. Denis Villeneuve was in the audience and was just reminding me the other day of this great screening. It was just an incredible thing to watch it the way it would have originally come out. And spending all that time working on that movie to get it to that screening, every time I saw it, it something was added to it. You just saw something in it that you hadn't seen before, even though you'd seen it so many times. It's an incredible piece of work.
Full of stars, right? It's amazing. Just terrific stuff, Christopher. I love this conversation. I would love to do it as often as you're willing whenever you have something coming out like Tenet on 4K Ultra HD, Blu-ray, and digital, also available in theaters. A big fan of your work, and I appreciate the call, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's Christopher Nolan, writer and director of Tenet, again, on Ultra HD, 4K, Blu-ray, and digital, and in theaters. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.